They always say stand by a struggling man, and when he rises, you will queen with him. But nobody warns you about the men who will use it as a ladder, reach the top, and kick the ladder away. Can you see this woman crying? She gave her youth, her savings, and her first loyalty to a broken village carpenter when everyone else mocked him. Yet, the moment wealth kissed his fingers, he traded her for a billionaire boss and pretended she didn't exist. His name is Emeka. If you stay to the very end of this video, you'll witness how cruel ungratefulness can be and how karma always collects his debt with interest. In the quiet, dusty village of Umoka, life was not just unkind to Emeka, it was downright brutal. Emeka was a young man, so poor that his shadows refused to follow him on empty days. People pointed fingers at him in the village square, laughing behind their hands and whispering cruel jokes about his future. Look at him, they would scoff. A grown man who cannot even afford a roof that doesn't leak when the rain falls. Every maiden in the village turned her back on him. Every door he knocked on for a hand in marriage slammed shut, except for one. Her name was Ada. Ada was a rare jewel. While others saw a hopeless carpenter struggling with crooked wood, Ada saw a man with a gentle heart and tireless hand. She looked past his worn-out clothes and saw a diamond in the rough. They got married in a humble ceremony, with no drums, no fanfare, and no wine, just two beating hearts and a shared dream. Emeka was a carpenter, but truth be told, he was not very good at his craft. His hands were hard-working, but his measurements were often clumsy. One afternoon, a villager named Mma came to collect a wooden stool she had paid him to make. Emeka proudly handed it over, but within 3 days, the leg of the wood broke. Mma marched back to his hut, shouting and demanding her money back. Emeka stood there, confused and empty-handed. But Ada stepped forward. With the little money she saved from her small tomato business, Ada paid Mma back in full, shielding her husband from public shame. She smiled at Emeka and whispered, "Do not worry, my husband. We'll rise together." And strange enough, her presence brought luck. People began giving Emeka more jobs simply out of respect for his hardworking wife. They built a quiet, peaceful life rooted in love. Then came a day that would change their world. Emeka's childhood friend Ikenna returned from the city, looking comfortable and sharp. When Ikenna visited Emeka's humble house, his eyes widened in shock. "Is this the kind of life you are living, Emeka?" Ikenna asked, shaking his head. "I have a job for you in the city, a cleaning job at a major corporate office. Come with me and leave this poverty behind." Emeka's heart skipped a beat. When he told Ada, she did not hold back. She believed in him and blessed his journey. When he arrived in the city, Ikenna helped him secure a job as a cleaner in a massive corporate tower. Emeka was tall, well-built and handsome in his neat cleaning uniform. He caught the attention of someone very powerful. Her name was Ngozi. Ngozi was 52-year-old, rich, and also the CEO of the company. She had built her empire with her own hands. But her heart was lonely. The very first day she saw Emeka walking down the hallway with his cleaning bucket, she stopped dead in her track. She wanted him close. To make that happen, Ngozi started urging Emeka to clean her private office twice a day, just so she could watch him. Soon, the little glances turned into conversations, and then came gifts. Every single day after work, Emeka sat in the laundry unit. Someone would bring him heavy envelopes stuffed with cash, designers' clothes, and expensive shoes. Growing up with nothing, Emeka's head started to spin. He had never seen this kind of money in his entire life. At first, a small voice inside his head whispered the name of Choma. He remembered his wife back in the village who stood by him when he had leaking stove and empty pockets. But the luxury was too loud and Emeka's willpower was too weak. He silenced his conscience and stepped right into the golden trap. Ngozi officially asked him out, and Emeka accepted without looking back. Because Emeka only finished primary school in the village and had no higher education, Ngozi could not give him any big position in the company. Instead, she had him resign to do nothing and move into her mansion. He lived there like a pampered house boyfriend. Gossip started flying around the village. People who had once praised her for sticking by a struggling carpenter now looked at her with pure pity. One afternoon, a maiden in the village, who had always been envious of Choma, walked up to her with a fake poisonous smile. "Choma, my sister, why are you wasting your youth waiting for a ghost?" The maiden sneered. "Pack your bags and go to the city. Go and check if your husband is even alive. Who knows? You might just end up returning to this village with his corpse." Choma's chest tightened and hot tears burned behind her eyes. But she refused to break. She raised her head high and stared the envious girl straight in the eyes. "Keep your wicked words to yourself," Choma rebuked her sharply. "I know the man I married. He might be lost, but he is not dead." The next day, Choma made up her mind. She gathered the little money she had managed to save from her small tomato business, tied it securely inside her wrapper, kissed her small room goodbye, and boarded the next vehicle, heading to the big city. When she arrived, the tall building terrified her, and the fast-moving cars made her head spin. With the little cash she had, she managed to rent a tiny cramped room in a crowded Face Me I Face You. Every single morning, Choma stepped outside into the busy street. She walked for miles, asking strangers, street vendors, and shop owners if they had seen a tall, dark Igbo man named Emeka. 1 week blended into one another. 2 full weeks passed, then a month. By the second month, Choma's money was completely gone. Her feet were swollen, her throat were dry, and exhaustion was eating her alive. She realized she couldn't just search the streets forever. She needed to survive. Desperate to pay her rent and buy food, she started walking from street to street, looking for any casual work. That was how she landed a cleaning job at a high-end beauty salon. Even though it was just cleaning, Choma put her whole heart into it. She scrubbed the floors, washed the mirrors, and arranged every towel and product with unmatched neatness. The owner of the salon, a sharp, hard-working 25-year-old lady, was deeply impressed. Other city girls who had worked there as cleaners were lazy and careless, but Choma treated the place like her own home. One afternoon, a regular client walked into the salon, took a good look at how spotless the place was, and walked straight over to Choma. "My dear, you are the best cleaner this place had ever seen," the client whispered, smiling warmly. "Let me tell you a secret, but don't tell your boss. There's a massive corporate company right across town that is desperately looking for top-tier cleaners, and they pay very well." The client reached into her handbag, scrambled an address on a small piece of paper, and pressed it into Choma's hand. The next morning, armed with a small piece of paper the salon client gave her, Choma stood in front of a towering glass skyscraper. It was a massive corporate empire, intimidating and completely out of her league. But hunger and survival do not care about intimidation. Choma walked inside, spoke to the human resource manager, and because of her unmatched work ethics and neatness, she was hired on the spot as part of the corporate cleaning crew. For the first few days, Choma kept her head down, pushing her cleaning cart through the endless marbled hallways, scrubbing floors and emptying trash bins. She was just grateful for a steady income to pay for her tiny room in the Face Me I Face You. Then disaster struck. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Choma was wiping down the glass walls near the executive wing on the top floor when the elevator's door slid open. Out stepped a woman, wrapped in expensive designer sleek suit, laughing loudly. Right beside her, carrying her heavy briefcase and a stack of files, was a man in a sharp, expensive suit. Choma froze. The sponge slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a soft thud. It was Emeka. He looked different, clean-shaved, well-fed, and dressed like a king. But there was no mistaking those broad shoulders and that familiar face. Before Choma could even call out his name, the woman beside him wrapped her arms around Emeka. It was Ngozi, the billionaire boss and the owner of the company. Choma's heart shattered into a million pieces. The man she had bled for, the man she had saved from village mockery and paid debt for, was standing right there, gathering every ounce of courage. Choma took a shaping step forward. Tears blurred her eyes as her voice broke the quiet hallway. Emeka! She screamed, her voice trembling. Emeka, my husband, you are alive. Ngozi stopped walking, her sharp eyes dating from Chioma to Emeka's face. Emeka turned pale. The blood drained completely from his cheek. Fear gripped his heart. Not fear of losing Chioma, but sheer terror of losing his multi-millionaire dollar lifestyle. He knew if Ngozi found out he was married to a poor village woman, his golden cage would instantly vanish. Instead of dropping his head in shame, Emeka hardened his face. He looked at Choma as if she were a total stranger, his eyes cold and heartless. Who are you? I don't know you, Emeka snapped, his voice shaking and dismissive. Leave me alone, you crazy woman. Choma stood frozen, as if she had just been struck by lightning. The man she had given her youth to, the man she had whispered sweet promises to, the man who had whispered sweet promises to her in the dark days of poverty, looked her in the eyes and denied her existence. Ngozi sneered, looking at Choma with pure disgust. Security! Ngozi backed, waving her hand dismissively. Throw this death delusional cleaner out of my building and make sure she never step foot near here again. Two bulky security guards rushed forward, grabbing Choma by her arms and dragging her away across the polished marbled floor. As they forced her out of the building, Choma didn't scream or fight back. She just let the hot tears stream down her face. She walked all the way back to her cramped room, packed her few belongings, and decided right then and there she was done crying over a coward. She would wipe her tears and build her own life in the city and leave Emeka to his fake world. Back in Ngozi's luxurious mansion, the honeymoon phase was officially dead and buried. At first, marrying the young handsome village man felt like a thrilling trophy for the powerful 52-year-old billionaire, but it didn't take that long for Ngozi's true nature to surface. Power does not share space with respect, and Ngozi was a woman who loved absolute control. Within a few months of their high society wedding, Emeka's dream life turned into a living nightmare. The man who had abandoned his loyal wife to live like a king was suddenly reduced to a glorified house help. Ngozi stopped seeing him as a husband. Instead, she viewed him as a charity case, an uneducated village boy who should be grateful for the roof over his head. Emeka, are you stupid? Ngozi's harsh words echoed through the marbled hallway every morning. Why are these shoes not polished? Why is my breakfast not ready on the table? Did I bring you out of that wretched village just to stand around looking pretty? Emeka would bite his lower lip, swallowing his pride. Emeka would bite his lower lip, swallowing his pride, and hurry to do her bidding. But it never stopped there. Whenever Ngozi hosted high-profile business partners, wealthy politicians, or elite friends at her mansion, she took sadistic pleasure in putting Emeka in his place, in front of her guests who sipped champagne and laughed loudly. Ngozi would mock him mercilessly. "Look at my husband here," Ngozi would announce with a cruel smile, gesturing towards Emeka as if he were a pet. "I basically feed and clothe him. He's just my house help who wears a wedding ring." The guests would chuckle softly, looking at Emeka in a pathetic way. Emeka would stand there, his face burning with humiliation, wishing the ground would open up and swallow him whole. Back in Umuka, even when he was poor, Choma had treated him like a king. She honored his name, defended his dignity, and built him up when the world turned him down. Here, surrounded by wealth, expensive cars, and designer suits, Emeka was treated like absolute trash. He had no voice, no authority, no freedom. He couldn't even leave. If he walked away, he had nowhere to go, no money of his own, and no education to survive in the ruthless city. He would lock himself in the guest bathroom at night, burying his face in his hands, and weep bitterly. The ghost of Choma haunted his every waking moment. He remembered her gentle smile, her warm voice, whispering, "We will rise together," and the way she shielded him from public shame. He had traded a queen for a tyrant. He had sold his loyalty for a plate of gold that turned out to be heavy iron. While Emeka was drowning in his mystery inside Ngozi's golden cage, Choma was busy rebuilding her life from the ground up. After walking away from the trauma at a corporate skyscraper, Choma refused to let defeat break her. With the savings she had managed to gather from working at the company and doing extra odd jobs, she rented a modest, clean apartment. Her sharp eyes for details, unmatched neatness, and honest character quickly earned her a stellar reputation across the neighborhood. People trusted her, and soon she was managing cleaning contracts for high-end boutique hotels and private homes in the city. Choma was no longer the broke village girl who needed a man. She was independent, resilient, and thriving on her own terms. Back at the corporate headquarters, disaster struck. Ngozi, like a bolt of lightning, had been playing a dangerous game for years, cooking the company's book, embezzling funds from other shareholders, and using shady offshore accounts to hide her massive financial crimes. She thought her wealth and powerful friends made her invincible, but corruption always leaves a paper trail, and the federal financial crimes investigators had been closing in on her for months. It happened on a bright Monday morning. Heavy footsteps echoed through the mansion. Federal agents, backed by armed police officers, stormed through the double doors with a search warrant and an arrest warrant.
Ngozi, you are under arrest for corporate fraud, money laundering, and grand theft,
the lead inspector announced, snapping handcuffs onto her wrist. Ngozi shrieked in absolute panic, screaming as they dragged her away. "You can't do this. Do you know who I am? Call my lawyers," she cried out. But her money and her status couldn't save her this time. The entire company was seized, her bank accounts were frozen, and her multi-million-dollar empire collapsed overnight. And right in the middle of this chaos stood Emeka. He watched in frozen horror as the police turned the mansion upside down, throwing everyone out within minutes. Emeka found himself standing on a cold concrete pavement outside the gate, holding a single small plastic nylon containing few of his clothes. Just like that, his luxury was gone. The mansion, the designer suit, the expensive cars. Emeka pulled out his phone to call for help, but every single friend he used to pop champagne with blocked his number the moment the news broke. He was complete nobody again, stripped of everything with no money, no education, and nowhere to turn. As he stood by the roadside under the scorchy sun, a sleek, expensive car pulled up in front of him. The tinted window rolled down. Sitting in the back seat was Choma, dressed in a sharp, elegant corporate blazer, looking calm, successful, and breathtakingly beautiful. Her driver opened the door, and Choma stepped out, looking straight at the man who had denied her existence in a corporate hallway. The hunter had become the hunted, and karma had finally come. Panic and desperate hope surged through Emeka's chest. He took a stumbling step forward, his hands trembling as he reached out to her. Chioma, my love, please, Emeka choked out, his voice cracking with utter humiliation. I made a terrible mistake. Please forgive me. Before Choma could even utter a word, a tall, handsome, well-dressed businessman stepped out, walking around the vehicle to stand right by Choma's side. He wrapped a protective, affectionate arm around her waist and looked at Emeka with a cold, questioning gaze. Choma, my dear, do you know this man? Her partner asked gently. Choma didn't even blink. She looked Emeka dead in the eye, her expression completely devoid of warmth, pity, or recognition. No, Choma answered smoothly, her voice steady and unyielding. He's nobody, just a stranger who is not worthy to be known. With those crushing words, she turned her back on him forever, slid into the luxury car beside her man, and drove away, leaving Emeka standing alone in the dust. Every single access, every door of mercy was permanently shut. Frustrated, broken, and utterly defeated, Emeka had no choice left. He dragged his feet all the way back to the quiet village of Umuka. News of his grand betrayal and ultimate downfall had already traveled ahead of him. His old friend Ikenna, along with others who had heard tales of Emeka boasting about his $1 billion lifestyle in the city, made sure the village knew every single details. When the villagers saw Emeka crawling back to his house with nothing, the mockery was merciless. People pointed fingers at him in the market square, laughing openly and mocking his foolishness. Look at the man who went to the city to dine with queens. They laughed behind his back and even in front of him. Every single day, the laughter echoed in his ears, and the weight of public humiliation pressed down on him so heavily. Emeka continued his miserable existence, struggling all over again in the dust of Umuka. Moral lesson: character is tested by poverty, but it is destroyed by wealth. Never sacrifice your integrity or abandon the people who stood by you in your darkest valley just to chase the flashing lights of temporal luxury. What you gain through betrayal, you will surely lose through ruin. For karma, always remember the path back home.